Welcome back to None of Your Beeswax Apiary. Today we're going to show you how we make our winter candy boards to put on the hive to get them through winter. You watched our previous video, you've seen us making the candy to put in the boards and packing it in there. We need to make about 5 more of these to put on the extra hives that we got this year, so we're going to show you how we go about doing that. Pretty simple. You just need some 1x4, some 1/2 inch hardware cloth, get it all stapled together, and then drill some holes in the side for ventilation and stuff like that. So what we've done so far is we went and ripped the whole 1x4 board about 1/4 inch from the bottom, and that's going to be our spacer so that the sugar sits up off the hive and gives bees access to it, and so they can still walk around on the top of the frames. So we've got that cut. We've got all our boards already cut to length for the 4 sides. You can cut them and glue them together however you want, as long as your outer dimensions are the same as your outer box, which is 19 and 7/8 inch long by 16 1/4 inches wide. So we went ahead and cut these boards. These are the 19 and 7/8, and then these ones we're going to staple to the inside. So we cut these at 14 3/4. So go ahead, get all these together, staple our sides together, staple our bottoms on, and then we'll staple the hardware cloth on and staple our bottoms on. We're going to go ahead and use our same nail that we used to put our boards together, and of course the tight bond glue to glue it all together there. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to get set up to nail our sides and the board together. We've taken off the bottom 1/4 inch of the boards, like I said, because that'll give us our spacer. So we've got our sides here. We're going to glue and staple them together. We're using 18 gauge 1/4 inch crown staples that are 1.5 inches long for this. That way it gives it some extra hold. And like I said, we're using the Titebond 3 wood glue, which is safe for the bees and gives it that extra strength to hold it together. So we've got our square here. We're going to go ahead and get our sides set up first. Like I said, the way I do mine is I put the insides, the short edge on the inside, and the long edge stays the length of the box. So I have to cut this inside, this short edge a little bit shorter to account for the 3/4 inch difference between the sideboards there, to give it the 16 1/4 total inches. So we're going to put some glue on the edge of our board there. We'll line it all up, make sure everything's good and square. And we'll take our staple gun and just shoot a couple staples in the side. I find that 2's usually enough to hold these together, so that'll be good enough. And we'll take and move our square to the other side and get our other long side lined up. Get just a little bit of glue down the edge. Lined up. Make sure we're good and square. Staple this guy too. And finally we'll do our back side here. Okay, just double check of this side, make sure everything's square. Yep. Okay, and that's that part of the box. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut our hardware cloth and staple it to the bottom and then put our spacer on. Okay, so now I've cut the hardware cloth, and again this is 1/2 inch hardware cloth. I cut it to fit the inside edges on the bottom of the feeder here. See if it fits in the inside. So we're going to staple that in place. We don't need the 1.5" staples for this, so I've switched over to a shorter staple. It's still an 18 gauge 1/4 inch staple, but it's only 5/8 inch long because you just need to hold this hardware cloth down. You don't need to hold all the pieces together and everything like that. And we're not going to use glue for this. We're just going to straight staple it down. So we'll cut it to size. We'll go ahead and pop some staples in here. I like to start on the short edge. It's a little bit easier to manage to get in place, and then you can work those long edges down because they tend to want to curl, as you can see right there. So we'll get a good start. And then you just have to staple it enough that it's going to fit in place. Keep in mind, you're going to staple your spacer on top of this, so there'll be even more holding it in place. So I do about probably 4 or 5 along the edge. Keep your hand holding it down so it doesn't want to curl on you. And we'll do the short edge over here. This is the same hardware cloth that we use for our mouse guards. So when you're cutting your hardware cloth down to fit this, don't throw the scraps away. Save the scraps. You can cut those down and use those for mouse guards. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to switch our staples over. We're going to get our bottom spacers, and we're going to staple them to the bottom here as well. Okay, so we've got our bottom spacers here that we cut off. What I do is when I cut them off and separate them, I always put a match mark on there so I know which spacer came from which board. That way I can match them up identically again, just in case you're a little bit off on your saw cuts. That way you know which board came from which, and they match a whole lot better that way. So I've already got them laid out. My match marks match. I'm going to go ahead and put 3 staples in each side here. So go ahead and get that in. Hit that in, and then we'll hit the middle. And we'll do all these in. I like to do the 2 long edges first, and then put the short edges in between that. Short edge here. And the reason I do this is if for some reason you're a little crooked on your spacing right here and you need to trim something off, you can trim this short one real easy and make it fit right there. So I do the long ones first, and if I need to fit anything in to make it fit, I do the short ones. Because again, this doesn't have to be exact. You're getting as close as possible, but if you do it right, it should be a perfect tight fit just like that. And there we go. Now we've got one last thing to do. We're going to go get our drill. We're going to drill vent holes in all 4 sides here. That way it gives it a little bit more airflow, ventilation, plus it gives the bees an extra way to get in and out of the hive as they move up in the later part of the winter there, when they get flying on warm days and things like that. So we're going to go get a drill. We're going to drill some holes in the sides here. So we got our drill bit here. I use a 3/8 inch drill bit. It's big enough that the bees can get in and out of. You don't want it too big so no other critters can crawl in there or anything like that. So I drill just one somewhere about halfway down each side. Again, doesn't have to be precise, doesn't have to be exact. And then this is the spot where I'll put all my wood blocks on all 4 sides to give that space so that the air can flow through the hive for a little bit extra ventilation. With these candy boards in place and the ventilation setup I've had, I found it works well for me. A lot of people do things different. I haven't had any, I get condensation on the inner cover, but it never gets down to the bees, so I've not had the bees get wet and freeze or anything like that, or any problems with condensation down in the hive. So we'll go ahead, we'll get this painted up and it will be ready to go. This was, again, pretty quick and easy. Good cheap insurance to make sure that the bees have food all the winter. Even though they have honey stores on the sides, they sometimes, when they come up, they may not move over to those sides. So this is right on top of the cluster. If it gets really cold, they can get access to this and feed themselves. All in all, with the board and everything like that, I'd say I've got probably $10, $11 in this thing, and then plus the sugar. So again, it's cheap insurance to make sure that the hive has food and doesn't starve through the winter. So be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Let us know if you have any questions. And if you'd like to see any other topics or anything like that, just leave a comment below and we'll do our best to try and get those answered. Thank you.